Humans have been put into this round and round and round circular lifestyle with 1 week leads into another week and another week, just a repeating cycle of action and work and sleep and eat and work and sleep and eat for so many people. The people are misdirected, diverted by the way society is manipulated and controlled, increasingly so with more and more laws affecting the fine detail of our lives, so that we spend so much time surviving and rushing around, we don't lift our head up and see what's going on. A major element of their plan in the next few years is introduce massive taxation and control and imposition as a result of something that doesn't exist, thanks to this guy. If this guy's involved, it's a scam. End of story. End of story.
It is a scientific fact that the sun is the main driver of planetary climate, and the measurements are clear. The sun is becoming hotter, brighter. It has been slowly increasing thermal output in the last 100 years, causing warming not just on Earth, but throughout the solar system. But the scientific facts and even the order of the planets didn't matter to one of the chief organizers of Live Earth, David Mayer de Rothschild, heir to the British arm of the Rothschild fortune, when we spoke to him. When I called Rothschild on the order of the planets, he just laughed, thinking the audience wouldn't get it. He continued to count on the population's ignorance and claimed the global warming lobby has nothing to do with carbon taxes. I guess he hadn't spoken with his good personal friend, Al Gore.
Global warming, the time for debate is over. I think what you have to realize is that being environmentally sensitive and making money aren't mutually exclusive. There's a lot of money to be made in addressing this issue.
But you guys are gobbling up all the world's concern to just simply line your pockets and make kids read your book in schools and do all this. It's a business, just like you said, Rothschild.
It's not. Do you think I make any money out of this?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing your your money-changing ancestors did. They're in Germany, Red Shield, and I'm calling you out, Red Shield. We know it's a scam.
A pollution-based tax system, principally CO2. We're causing it mainly, vast majority of it. The consequences are bad and will be catastrophic unless we act.
The polar ice caps of Mars are receding at several miles a year, much faster than ours, and that the moons of Saturn and Jupiter are melting. In fact, several of their moons were ice and are now liquid seas. Now, how are SUVs causing that, David Rothschild?
That's because those planets are closer to the sun, my friend.
No, Jupiter and Saturn are not closer to the sun. Neither is Mars.
Yes, sir. I think you'll find, right, that the very simple matter, and what I wanted to say, and this is my final point, forget your taxation theory, because actually it's not taxation.
Put a price on the carbon. A tax is the best way. Cap and trade can also do it.
If there were a carbon-based tax, would there be a need for an economy-wide cap and trade system?
They are not either or. We can do both. I am in favor of both.
Global warming activists often point to changes in the Arctic ice cap as proof of the dangerous effects of man-made global warming. Now, a report from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory says those changes are in fact the result of natural ocean circulation patterns.
Christopher Booker in the Sunday Telegraph has discovered that what he calls the warmest, the people who are telling us that we're all going to get drowned as the ice melts, well, they've been actually using a defective satellite. And not only that, one of their Americans, whom they have claimed to be a leading climate scientist, turns out not to be a scientist at all.
The Oregon Institute of Science and Medicine today announced that more than 31,000 scientists have signed a petition rejecting the theory that humans are causing catastrophic global warming.
I've got an article from October 8th, New York Times Magazine, about a firm called Kleiner Perkins, a capital firm called Kleiner Perkins. Are you aware of that company?
Well, yes, I'm a partner at Kleiner Perkins.
So you're a partner in Kleiner Perkins, okay. Now, they have invested about $1 billion in 40 companies that are going to benefit from cap-and-trade legislation. So is the legislation that we are discussing here today, is that something that you are going to personally benefit from?
I believe that the transition to a green economy is good for our economy and good for all of us. And I have invested in it. But if you believe that the reason I have been working on this issue for 30 years is because of greed, you don't know me.
Sir, I'm not making accusations. I'm asking questions that have been asked of me.
You mentioned global warming. See, it's very interesting the way that's portrayed in the media. It's portrayed as if there's two sides. You know, we have to be objective, so 50% for each. One side is like 99% of scientists. The other side is Rush Limbaugh, Sarah Palin, Jim Inhofe, and three guys that they kind of contrarians in the science community.
Here you go. Thanks for the Oscar, but I'm totally full of crap. This man's going around demonizing carbon dioxide, which without it the world would not be as it is, and demonizing the greenhouse effect, without which we wouldn't bloody be here. There you go. That's what he's doing. And he's orchestrating all these people. And it's so kind, that David de Rothschild has produced this book to help us, Global Warming Survival Handbook. Survival. Now, let's get some sanity into this. This is a graph of greenhouse gases that make up the greenhouse effect. That one, you would think from the propaganda, would be carbon dioxide. It is water vapor and clouds. I think we ought to ban water vapor and clouds. It's the only way to save the frickin' world, right? Every time we see a cloud, they ought to add VAT. I think it's the only bloody way. And this is carbon dioxide. Not only that, the grey stuff is natural, only the green slither is coming from human activity. And we're supposed to believe it's affecting the weather. It's the bloody sun. It's the bloody sun. When the sun is in an active phase, it gets warmer. When it's in a non-active phase, it gets cooler, which is why over the last 10, 11 years, when the sun's been in a non-active phase, it's got cooler year on year. And one of these groups in this network with Brzezinski's Trilateral Commission is the Club of Rome. It was created in the 60s to orchestrate the use of the environment to push the agenda. Aurelio Pecci, the founder of the Club of Rome, quoted it in their own publication in 1991. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine and the like would fit the bill. And they've played it out ever since through the Church of Climatology, which is just a cult. And here's the high priest. And we have this guy, Nick Clegg, who actually calls people that challenge the global warming climate change official story as climate change deniers. Because the Church of Climatology says that if you don't accept its nonsense, you are a blasphemer! And they equate you with Holocaust deniers. That's what that line is supposed to do. And we're still pushing along. We've had Climate Gate, we've had Glacier Gate, we've had Amazon Gate, we've had Polar Bear Gate, Rising Sea Levels Gate, where all these things that were supposed to be happening have found to be not happening and have been lied about and manufactured. And we've even had Cowgate. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you glad tidings and great news. These clowns have now admitted that bovine flatulence is not a threat to human existence as we know it. I can't tell you how happy I am. Globalization, which is the constant centralization of power, which is more and more power in the hands of fewer and fewer over more and more people, this is a totalitarian tiptoe. More and more, the globalized economy is taking over so that every country is dependent on every other country, therefore has no power of individual action and individual decision-making. It means that if you're dependent within your country or your community on things outside of your influence, then everyone is dependent on everyone else, therefore has no self-sufficient ability to make decisions in their own lives and their own communities and their own countries. And the reason that they want to do this is they want to make everyone dependent on something outside their control, because dependency equals control. It's like abundance and scarcity. We live in a world which could be incredibly abundant. Nobody should be hungry on this planet, for goodness sake. Africa could feed the bloody world. It can't even feed itself. Why? Because of the manipulation of that continent by this crowd. And so we have all over the world, because there's no empathy, no consequences for them emotionally of their actions, we have manufactured scarcity, because abundance equals choice equals freedom. Scarcity equals dependency equals control. And that's why we have manufactured dependency. We have people hungry in a world of plenty.
How much of that shitty deal did you sell to your clients?
I don't know the answer to that.
You didn't tell them you thought it was a shitty deal?
My performance on that deal wasn't good.
You knew it was a shitty deal, and that's what your email showed.
But let me just tell you, you think it's so complicated, and you think you're so smart? Any street gambler would never place a bet with a bookie or a house with the record that is revealed in the documents that this committee has gathered.
Nobody gets brought up on charges, and all they do is they get slapped with a fine, and then they say things like, and you can't do business on the Securities Exchange for another 2 years, or something stupid like that, after they walked away with $500 million. Only a child would believe that these hedge funds and private equity groups make hundreds of millions and billions of dollars because they're so intelligent. The game is rigged. What are you waiting for, somebody to tell you that Santa Claus isn't real?
Shows that the president don't really run the country, does he? You know, the thing was change we can believe in. He was going to shut down Gitmo. He's going to get us out of the wars. Gitmo's still there, and now we're in another war. Maybe the fourth coming up. It tells me clearly that presidents get in there, and it's really the Federal Reserve that runs the country, because if you control the money, you run the operation.
This is what JP Morgan does. All they do is they take toilet paper and they write $1 billion on the toilet paper, and then they give it to each other for a fee, and they give it back to Goldman Sachs for a fee. Because the rating agencies rate this toilet paper AAA, but there's no value here. That's not the same as a star athlete. These are crooks, these are shysters, these are financial terrorists, and you're letting them totally destroy the American economy, Barack Obama. Who are these American financial terrorists, and why are they being allowed to roam the world and cause their destruction? Why can't someone put them in jail? Arrest them! Jamie Dimon in cuffs!
There is a massive transfer of wealth from the American people to the hands of a few, and it's going on right now as America's eyes are misdirected to the political theater of these histrionic debt negotiations. Threats to shut down the government, willingness to make the most vulnerable Americans pay dearly for debts they did not create.
Federal Reserve is responsible for the inflation, the business cycle, the unemployment. It is up to us to do something about it and look into it, at first to look into it and understand it, because then it will be realized that we need to have more oversight.
To run for president needs cuckoo land amounts of money. Where do they come from? It comes from here. Where does that money come from? And therefore, you have two people put up for president who are there because of the money provided by this network. Therefore, they've chosen not only who it's going to be, but they've sorted out what the policies are going to be in return for that money. And this is what they do. We think we're choosing our leaders. We're not. It's a myth. And so this structure that I showed you earlier comes into this, where these leaders are put into power to carry out the agenda of the control system, which is why when parties change, whatever they've said in opposition goes out the window and they start acting like the party in government previously that they were criticizing. The common denominator is whoever gets in power basically introduces the control system, and whoever's out of power opposes the control system verbally, which means that you have the illusion of choice when whoever's in power unfolds the agenda. So there is no choice. It's a myth. And they control these institutions and play the people off against each other, divide and rule, both within countries and between countries.